Good day to everybody that's with me. And if you're on the replay, drop a hashtag replay. But for those on the live, we're going out on YouTube and in the Facebook group. So welcome. We've got another special guest in the Back to Your Future social experiment, where it's like the film, where we look back, we look forward, we hop around in time and find out what 20 entrepreneurs' lives have been like over the last year or two or three, and look forward to what the next 2 or 3 years are going to be like. And so this is a 5-year social experiment where we're going to dive deep into all of the entrepreneurs' lives and how they change. Now, Julian's has pivoted, and it's exciting that I'm going to be bringing him in any second, just making sure that we are live on the let me just make sure that we are live on the phone. And if you are on, then yes. John, good to see you. Right, okay, so without further ado, I'll bring Julian in and then we can get going. Julian!
Hi there. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah, it's been a year. Can you believe that?
No. I mean, time goes past so fast, and also I think sometimes one's plans change.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I planned in 2021 to do tons of travel because I thought 2020 has been a washout, coronavirus, COVID, and travel, and all of that. And then 2021 is almost like Groundhog Day, but you know, it gives us time to actually focus on our goals, dreams, and aspirations, doesn't it? I suppose so. That is something. Yes. But are you keeping well?
I'm keeping well, yes. I'm just keeping very busy. As I told you before when we set this call up, you know, I've pivoted a little bit in terms of my plans. So obviously we can have a chat about that.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, I did have a set format of questions last year, but I think we'll wing it this time and, yeah, just make things up as we go along. It'll be really detailed of what you've been doing and, you know, what that means to the next 3 years, because this was a 5-year program. Year one was all about this. And I actually noted down, I re-listened to year one because I noted down what you said you were going to do. And I don't know if you can remember, but I'll remind you. And then it'll be like, yes. So I think the first topic to get out the way, because it's really dear to your heart, is obviously Afghanistan. And you know, without going into way too much politics or details on all of that, on your profile, if people aren't friends with you already, look Julian up, because he was in Afghanistan in the kind of mid and late 80s, and he's got some phenomenal photographs on there. So tell us a bit about your thoughts about what's happening in Afghanistan at the moment.
It's pretty tricky, of course. I mean, there's a barrage of media coverage, so we're getting a pretty good picture of what's actually happening there. The Taliban has taken over. There's one area that's a holdout against the Taliban, which is the Panjshir Valley, which I know very well. That used to be the place where Ahmad Shah Massoud, the famous lion of Panjshir, used to reside until he was killed by Al-Qaeda operatives 2 days before 9/11. And so what we got there is basically a holdout from his son, Ahmad Massoud, who's now confronting the Taliban, and we'll see what actually happens there. They may work out some sort of deal. They may work out some sort of peace settlement to allow the people in the Panjshir to just continue their lives. But at the moment, it's very confrontational. The other thing is, of course, we're seeing a lot from Kabul, and it's very chaotic. And I think that will eventually die down because we're getting to the end of this sort of cutoff period, which US President Biden has set up to the end of this month. And then I think things will tend to calm down a little bit. It's very difficult to know how this is going to proceed going forward, because you know the Taliban have got a pretty bad reputation, but I sense that they are trying to put on a good show. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I know it's a shame really for the area, and fingers crossed it can come, it can bring them into a positive light, and yeah, and particularly if they change some of the beliefs on women and education of women and things like that, you know, and other things a bit more humane, then fingers crossed it will all be good. Okay, so last year, tell me what's been going on, and so last year when I said, okay, what are you doing? You were kind of helping people with wealth allocation and looking after their money and investing and all of that kind of thing. Are you still doing that, or are you completely away from that now?
Well, yes, I'm basically still in that field because, in essence, what I see as the sort of future for most people is to actually sort of build up an asset base and also build up an income. Now, I think we all understand that, and I think all viewers to this show will actually understand that process. Where I've changed a bit is that I was focusing quite a lot on sort of the network marketing side and so forth. And to be frank, I mean, I'm a journalist, and some of that sort of grates a little bit, sort of having to put yourself out there and promote yourself and bring in people to sell particular opportunities. And that's not necessarily my thing, but what my thing is really to help other people become, financially independent, particularly like journalists or people that are maybe struggling now in part because of the COVID restrictions and the problems in terms of business. People may not be doing so well financially. Well, how can you help those people, get a good asset base, but also develop an income? And I think that's the important thing that I'm now focusing on, and particularly passive income. Okay, now that's the holy grail. We all know, everybody on this call, I'm sure, will understand the idea of passive income. And I mean, I've got here, for example, Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, which I'm sure everybody's read. And if you haven't, do take a moment to read it. And basically, he talks about building an asset base and then making an income out of that. So in very simple terms, you might buy a block of flats or apartments, and you may get an income per month from the people that are staying there. That's a very simple sort of approach. And one of the problems for a lot of people, I think, is they're just not going to go out and buy a whole block of flats. They're not going to invest that sort of money. They're not the sort of Grant Cardone types who are going to just go and, borrow, 100,000 from the bank here and wing it and try to buy some property and sell and all these sorts of things. They're looking for a simpler way. And that's what I'm sort of focused on now, is how do you, in very simple terms, first of all, build to, say, $1,000 per month passively, to then to 5,000, to then to 10,000. And that's what I'm focused on at the moment. And where it differs from people that are maybe hodling their Bitcoin, and they're very excited at the moment because it just hit 50,000 and they're smiling and they think, oh, I'm doing really well. Where it differs from that is that, in a way, I don't want to put it down because, I mean, I own Bitcoin. And,
yeah, me too.
But the basis of what I'm doing is in cryptocurrencies. But very often people have almost a lottery mentality. They'll buy the coin, they'll sit there, they'll hodl, hold on for dear life, they'll hodl it, hold it, and then they will, hope that the price of the coin goes up. Now, I've learned the hard way that this doesn't always work. I think maybe I mentioned last time, I invested in a cryptocurrency and put a fair amount in, and now it's gone down to something like a quarter of the value that I put in. Okay, and it's tinkering around at the bottom there, and it's not doing much, to the point where I'm not even looking at it. My wife asks me occasionally, "What's happening with that? What's the price doing?" I say I don't even bother to look.
Yeah.
And so what I'm looking at is the opportunity to use your cryptocurrency to make an income. Okay, so that's the focus at the moment. And actually, it's relatively simple to do. Okay, there are various projects out there and various platforms where you can take your BTC, your Bitcoin, or your ETH, or whatever you've got, and put it on the platform and make some interest from it. Okay, there are different ways of doing it. There are ways to do it where you can multiply the income that's coming in by simply putting back what you're making per month into it and compounding.
Right.
And that this to me, if you do your sums, and if you look at the simple compounding calculators that you see out there, and you just plug in $1,000, and then you say, okay, 1% per day interest, where will I be in a year? Where will I be in 3 years? It'll look quite impressive. Of course, it doesn't work quite like that.
Mm-hmm.
But still, that process is important. So what I'm focused on at the moment is actually a process where I myself are going through this and building to $1,000 per month, to 5,000, to 10,000, and then we'll help other people do the same. And I'm working with a group called DBM, Digital Business Masters, where there are coaches helping me do this process. Now, I can do it myself, but because I can actually sign up with them, and for a very small minimum charge, they will actually give me 4 coaches to then run with this. It's
Right.
better that I do that, spend a little bit of money. It's only $175 for 3 months training on that, and it'll tell me what I know, but it'll also maybe help discuss certain options and think to yourself, well, is this a good platform to be on? Is that a good platform? Where's the best place to put my money? Where's the best place to put my cryptocurrency? So instead of having, for example, I'm sure people on this call, for example, will have a Binance account or a particular cryptocurrency account. And so instead of actually just holding your money on the account and just hoping for the price to go up, there are options where you can actually stake your money. Even on Binance, for example, you can stake your money and make a small percentage per month, so that it's not just sitting there and you're hoping the price goes up. You're actually making a small percentage. But then there are other options out there where, in essence, what you're doing is you're improving your odds. Okay. And if we think about what's a desirable percentage per day to make on your cryptocurrency holding, supposing you have like $1,000 worth of BTC, Bitcoin, what would be a good percentage to be making per day on that, on a platform? That's a useful question, because I would say that anything above 0.3% is quite useful. I mean, 1% would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Because in very simple terms, after 3 months, you turn your $1,000 worth of Bitcoin into another 1,000. So you double it.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, but realistically, I think if you go on that 0.3%, then even 10 or 20% growth in a couple of months is better than any bank that you're going to find. We've got a question on the line here, and Ben's just asked, is it in effect trading currencies? It's not, is it?
Well, actually, it's interesting.
That's one option.
It's interesting you ask that, because what I'm doing is diversifying. Okay. I'm not putting, all my eggs in one basket. I'm not putting all my my assets, my money, my cash into one basket and hoping for the best. What I'm doing is putting it into a number of projects, roughly 5 projects at the moment, but that will expand probably to 10 projects. And one of those projects is called CFX. I'm not promoting that here on the call, but CFX, what you do there is you give them Bitcoin for a position, and then they trade it on the Forex markets. Okay. And then you get a percentage. Now they advertise it at roughly 1% per day. All right. By the time it comes through, and by the time they take off 20% commission,
fees and commissions, yeah,
for the withdrawal fee, it's closer to 0.5, 0.7%.
Yeah.
But it's not so far off from the 1%. Okay. So, that's interesting. So that's one option where you've got a platform that hopefully will continue. Okay. A good point, because I'm sure, again, that people will understand, who are watching this call, that, many of these projects, these platforms, these companies, arrive, make a big fuss, and then disappear with people's money. So there have been particular companies that have, I myself have put money into, and then they've collapsed.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I think you've got to approach it rather carefully, in that you choose the right platforms to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that you're making money, and also to have the right mindset. You've got to be completely opposite to my wife. Now, my wife gets all excited about lottery tickets and all this sort of thing. I live in Thailand and I live in Chiang Mai. My wife's Thai. She gets all excited about that. And she's asking me about this one particular coin that I invested in 3 years ago and what's the price to it. And I said, I don't even bother to look. If you have the right type of very cool, relaxed mindset and approach to this, and not get caught up in so-called FOMO, the rush to want to to get involved in something, then I think you have a better chance of just very carefully approaching things, doing your due diligence, and then making the move on particular projects, and then doing well out of it.
Can I pick out 2 points as well? Because you made it clear that you're in a program that you've got mentors, and that's the first point. Is anything that we do is you want to shortcut it as much as possible, so you need the mentors and the systems behind you, and you buy into those as much as you buy into their program, so that they're ethical and that they've got your interests at heart and they want you to succeed as well. So that's the first point. The second one is around Robert Kiyosaki. Obviously, he talks about compounding what you've got and living off the interest from those investments. That's true wealth. So you've just highlighted there that actually you're investing, let's say $1,000, and then what the plan is to actually, unless you need that commission that comes in on a monthly basis, you reinvest it and leave it there to build at a much greater and quicker rate. So it sounds like that this program that you're involved in has all of that in the system built in. There's another question from Ben, who said, with these projects, obviously they go down as well, like any investment.
Yes. No, I think one's got to be very careful. And for example, you diversify. So for example, you have 5 projects. Okay, you get involved in, say, 5 projects. That's my initial move. I'll then expand to about 10 projects. But in those 5 projects, maybe 1 or even 2 of them could possibly collapse. You're not really sure. You're hoping, because of due diligence, and you've checked things out and you've looked around and you've got other people that are involved in this, and you've got mentors maybe that are helping you, point you along the right road, that those projects will stay in place. And there are some that look good. For example, I'm involved with one particular platform called Daisy. Yeah. Okay. And I'm involved with a community. I won't get too much into the actual numbers, but in simple terms, in 2 months, I've gone from putting in $2,500 to at least a nominal position of about $40,000. Okay, I can't get my hands on it right now because we're a community, we're hanging on to it, we're going to use it going forward. And from that, we will then decide to pay ourselves per week or per month from that, and hold on to our positions. But, there you've got to jump from literally $2,500 to roughly $40,000. But that's very specific. That was due to me getting into this group right at the right time, literally in a very small window of time, okay, and taking the opportunity there. But normally, I think what you're looking at is something where you're closer to 0.5% per day, something like that. Yeah. And you're looking to sort of virtually double your money by compounding over 3, 4, 5 months or something like that. And that can be powerful going forward. There are ways sometimes with these platforms where you can literally take out a certain amount per day, but still compound to a certain extent as well. So if you really needed the money, maybe, it's worthwhile, taking some out and still having a certain percentage compounding. But
that's also good risk management, isn't it? Where you're talking about investments, and that's what I've done over the years in the stock market, where you think, okay, it's gone up 30%. Excuse me, I'm going to take out 10 or 15% so that I know that if it goes down again, then I know I've got that secured now in cash in my hand. And then I love contrarian investing and buying on dips and things like that. So I guess, you can play it. You'll never beat the stock market completely, but you can play it.
Yes, and I think it's important to be a little bit careful. I think there are certain situations where you just have to go with a gut feeling to say, I will stick with this particular thing. I will compound month after month after month, not taking it out, knowing that it's going in the right direction, and hoping that it will work out. But there are other times where you might say to yourself, well, maybe I should take 30% of that monthly income and take it out myself, so that's important to keep in mind, because you never know with some of these platforms whether they might collapse going forward. So that's why have a bit of diversity. I'm focusing on five projects, but then I'm looking to then expand that to 10 projects and so forth like that. And then in very simple terms, if we kept it simple figures, 5 projects, $1,000 per month from each project, that type of thing. And then what you do probably would be to then reinvest, to then be looking more towards, getting 10,000 per month from them. But that would be just putting money back in, not sort of taking too much out. So
that makes sense.
You've got to be a little bit careful with this sort of thing.
So last time around, you said that you were doing a YouTube video series of the 20s, the whole decade. Are you still going to do that? Because this is going to be fascinating over the next 10 years with digital currencies and crypto and all of that kind of stuff, and where we're going. We talked about AI in the last one as well. So I'm just interested to know if you're going to document this as well.
Well, it's interesting because I started in 2020 putting out these videos saying to people that this is going to be a very disruptive decade. Boy,
it started off like that.
Exactly. But I mean, disruptive in possibly a different way than people expected. But there are these underlying currents. And so that particular disruption, those types of videos, which you can find, on my YouTube channel, look at some of the political sides of things, the changes in terms of business, the changes in terms of the economies around the world and that type of thing, and how we have to gear up. We have to learn new skills, like we're doing here with these types of calls, where we look at options to actually bring in an income and make ourselves more independent. We need to look at that. So going forward, I've actually not done any videos for a few months now, partly because I've just been so busy. But I am going to restart. I'm very much on this sort of line. In other words, how do you, in simple ways, start to build your assets and start to build an income from that? And so we'll then be exploring some of these projects going forward. Secondly, I have started doing some manual cryptocurrency trading as well, but that's not something that people should necessarily, rush into. Maybe there are people on the call who understand that and they can do it well. That's fine. But for a lot of people, it's quite a struggle. And, I think the stats are such that maybe as many as 90% of people that come into manual trading actually don't really make it. So I'm doing that as a process where I'm learning how to do that. But what I'm focused on first is to set the sort of bedrock of building the assets and then building an income from that per month.
That's a great idea, and I've traded stocks and currencies for over 10 years, and it's been mixed. I've had a lot of revenue from the stocks side of things. The currency is a bit more hit and miss, but yeah, it's something that you definitely need to put money into that you can afford to lose just in case. So yeah, so. We did a couple of fun questions last year. I want another fun one thrown in there as well, so it's not all the boring business stuff. But anything fun happened to you in the last 12 months? You said you wanted to do a lot of travel, as I did in 2021, but obviously not happening yet. Has it happened for you? Anything fun in your life?
Probably not, because I mean, basically, COVID has like grounded me. But then I operate from home. I don't have sort of like a job to go to. I'm involved in some journalism projects and so forth, so that's fine. But I can do that all from home. And basically, in a way, COVID hasn't affected me. But my wife and I were thinking that we'd like to travel. But of course, it's just so problematic at the moment.
Yeah,
it's best to sort of like hold off from that, and we'll see what happens next year probably.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm in the same boat. And so another question I wanted to know if you've been picking up on from your journalist background is the fact that a lot of people are in the online marketing space, and some people are getting very good at copy and copywriting and putting out, that hook and mimicking advertising in their social profiles and things like that. Have you picked up on any good and bad behaviors? Because obviously there is still a lot of average people out there that just put out the same dross. And what are your thoughts on copy and the whole, coming from a journalist background, you see all of this?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I have a good friend, I won't mention his name, but who's struggling to sell various opportunities in the network marketing and online marketing space. And you can see that really he's struggling because it's just not his thing, and he's not getting many followers, and so it's not for everybody. And there's also still an awful lot, as I think everybody who's on this call will recognize, there's still an awful lot of spamming of stuff. There's still an awful lot of sort of very unhelpful material out there, to the point where a lot of people are put off by being approached, and for example, I have a standing as a journalist, and so if I put out an ad for, say, some opportunity involved with cryptocurrency on my personal Facebook page, which I've done a couple of times, I just get these silly responses from people, because one, they think it's a scam. Two, they think, oh, what you're trying to sell. And however you try to explain it, people will not necessarily understand, unless you're in the right sort of frame, right sort of mindset to accept the fact that there might be a company out there that could pay you close to 1% per day on your investment, and that you basically just put the money in and forget about it and just take the money out. Yeah. Unless you're in that right sort of mindset frame, you're likely just to reject all this stuff.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I think people, that's not a bad response, because there are a number of companies that have come and gone. They promised the world. There's one particular company, I won't mention the name, that looks interesting to me because it helps people actually support their local charity or NGO and bring in an income for it. And yet it's got all the hallmarks of, here today, gone tomorrow, concerning it. So I'm not mentioning the name, but that's the sort of problem. And you might think, well, maybe I can get in here and I can make a small bit of profit from it and then get out. But then what about the people that you've encouraged to bring in, the team and so forth? You're letting them down. Yeah. And so that's a tricky bit, I think. Sometimes you'll build a team, they'll come into an opportunity, and then that opportunity doesn't do very well. Yeah. And then basically people are sort of rather sour about it, and they don't want to do anything more. So I think it's tricky. It's not an easy skill, the copywriting, even for someone like myself who's a journalist. I mean, I can write good stories, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to really get the right sort of wording for the particular advert or something. And so
yeah, I think I'm going back to basics with the stuff that I'm teaching and coaching as well now, because that is one of the key things. And this weekend in my Facebook group, I'm doing training on branding, because a lot of entrepreneurs don't even know the importance of them as an individual, because in the main they're solopreneurs, just themselves, until they can build a business that is a proper business with a team. And so for me, branding is part of that, and we are the brand a lot of the time. You've got to resonate with people. It doesn't matter how good or bad your writing is. If people don't connect with you, like you just said, most of the crypto and Bitcoin and all of those folks are really bad at it and just spam out links because they think everyone's going to jump on the bandwagon of crypto. But for me, it's building those foundations on what are you as a personal brand, getting that know, like, and trust factor with your audience, the correct audience, not spamming them links, but like you've done on this call, actually, in the last year, you've pivoted, you've changed into a new direction. All you've done is tell us about what you're doing. If people are interested, they can actually get back to you and say, that's really struck a nerve with me, actually. Can I have some more detail? And then you have a conversation. It may or may not be something that they're interested in. So for me, that's exactly the right approach.
Yes, and I think one crucial thing for me, because I feel more comfortable just being a journalist and then doing my own thing with regards to building assets and income, is I'm focused on me right now. I'm not necessarily, I will actually help people. I've got a private Facebook channel where I can funnel people through there, and if they are interested, we can pursue this. But I'm focused on me right now. So build the assets, build the income, demonstrate it, okay, and then if it's looking good, then maybe say to people, if you're interested, there are these programs. This is how to do it. Quite a lot of it is actually pretty simple. It's not something that's too complicated to do. But the point here is that one's focused on oneself. You're not having to sell yourself.
Yeah.
You're not having to network or to push yourself as a brand online if you don't want to do that. Because some people, like this friend of mine who's struggling with it, he's keeping going because he's just that sort of guy. But you can see that it's just not working,
Yeah.
And I think you have to realize at some point, this is not for me, okay? But how can I make $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month or more, doing it for myself? And then maybe some people will come in on, friends, family, whatever, might be interested after you've actually got some success. But you're basically focused on yourself, and you're not having to sell the latest opportunity. You're not having to build a team, that sort of thing, So
yeah, totally get it.
There is that opportunity there, and that's what's so exciting about the cryptocurrency space at the moment. These various projects, choosing the right ones is important, of course, but you have that opportunity to actually, build an income per month. Yeah,
that's fantastic, and I'm super excited to see what's going to happen in the next 12 months. What do you? Let's. I mean, we can wrap it up here by saying, if people are interested, I can put out the link to where you are online, mainly Facebook, I assume. But what does the next 12 months look like for you then, Julian?
Well, I think basically I've got to set the bedrock. Okay, so I'm actually building the assets. I've been on that process for 3 years already, so I've got some base. But build it further, bring in the income so that you've got a decent amount of income coming in per month, to the point where you've got more freedom. Basically you've got more freedom, you've got more choices, and therefore you're diversified enough that if there are problems with particular projects, you're not too worried about them. So, I'm sort of pretty positive, but I've got to build that basis first, really.
Yeah, lovely. Looking forward to listening into how it went in the next 12 months even. And, we've got another 3 years to look out to as well. And a lot can change in that period. And it's super exciting to see. So thank you so much for your time again. And I'm excited to watch someone that's pivoted, because to the interviews that I've done so far, they've all carried on with what they were doing before. Some people had a poor year for 2020. Others actually springboarded their success. But super excited. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll catch up very soon.
Yeah, great, Martin. Good chance to chat.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks a lot. Take care, Julian.
Okay, bye for now.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
I think that's ended.